Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Please start with Buddha. Bhagavado Arahado Samma Sambuddhasa Namo Dasa Bhagavado Arahado Samma Sambuddhasa Namo Dasa Bhagavado Arahado Samma Sambuddhasa Buddhang Saranang Gacchami Dhammang Saranang Gacchami Sangham Saranang Gacchami Tudiyambi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami Tudiyambi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami Tudiyambi Sangham Saranang Gacchami Tadiyambi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami Tadiyambi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami Tadiyambi Sangham Saranang Gacchami Panchasila Pavadavipata Veramani Sikkhabadang Samadhiyami Adinnadana Veramani Sikkhabadang Samadhiyami Kamesu Miccasara Veramani Sikkhabadang Samadhiyami Mukshavada Veramani Sikkhabadang Samadhiyami Merayam Majjapama Tattana Veramani Sikkhabadang Samadhiyami Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thanks, Leja. Panditji? Thanks, I said. Yeah. So, we'll start our Buddha and his Dhamma, part 4. It is about the Buddha and his predecessors who were having their own philosophies at the time of Buddha. So, how it worked at that time, and from that we can understand here that how Buddha's philosophy or his views differ from all the predecessors of that time. So here 4 chapters are included, that is the Buddha and the Vedic Rishis, Kapila the philosopher, the Brahmanas, and the Upanishad and the teachings. So the first one and the second one, we'll just look at this, try to understand a bit how it worked, who were the Vedic Rishis. Like we always use these words, Rishis, in our life. We say those who are sannyasis, most of the time people say they are Rishis, but it is very well defined. It is said that the Vedas, what we know as Vedas, it's a collection of mantras that were in Sanskrit. And these mantras, those who used to chant these mantras were called Rishis. Why I want to explain this in detail is that chanting of mantra are called Rishis. I don't know chanting of Pali, what are they called? I want to just compare it. Okay? Chanting of mantra of Vedas, it means people, those who don't know Sanskrit, they were not able to understand the mantras present in the Vedas. and they were reciting it, they were chanting it, and they were called Rishis. Today also we find the same thing, but we find the Bhikkhu and Bhikkhunis chanting without explaining. They are also like mantras because we are not able to understand that. The first point I wanted to mention this here. Now, what were the mantras? For that we have to understand that they were mere invocations to deities such as Indra, that what we call as Devi and Devtas, Devas. Devi and Devtas, they have the names. They in our daily life we can say God also. So they were Indra, Varuna, Agni, Soma, Isana, Prajapati, Brahma, Mahiddhi, Yama and others. Everyone have their own different identity. As when we talk of Indra, we say that he is the god of the rain. Varuna, the god of the air, we can say. In the same way, they are all like that. And they were doing prayer through mantras. It was a prayer because no one understands what mantras are, but it is explained here that these mantras are the prayers for the help. Prayer to this typical type of gods who have their own way according to them, that they will help in that way. And they were praying to them so that they can help them. As if there is no rain, in different calamities, they were praying that if there is no rain, then they would pray to Indra. So they would chant mantras for Indra so that Indra can have a rain in the world. In the world, we can say, we are talking only in India now. I don't know whether the Indra is prayed out of India too for the want of rain. So, in the same way, for many things, like we know of Yama, that is for the death. Yama is a god. It is very well, many of them must be knowing about I'm talking about a woman who prayed Yama to bring back her husband to life. It was a kind of mantra, it was a kind of prayer to them. In the same way, all the gods, all this devs and devis were prayed like that. Even for the gift of wealth, for accepting the offering of the food. So they wanted gift from these gods. People were praying to get the gift from the gods. Like we can say, if they are going for a war, they were saying that if they were praying and saying that they should win. Now also we find many families, they say that the children to pray to God that they should pass in their exams. It is something they are wanting from this God. They want the wealth. They pray Lakshmi, like is a Devi. They pray Lakshmi that they should get wealth. They pray to many, like in Diwali, they do it in this way. And they pray Saraswati, where they say that if they pray to Saraswati, they will get knowledge. Without learning, without using their mind, they should get the knowledge. So there are many kind of things. And with this prayer, they were using some other things to please them. They were thinking that if they please this God, they will get what they want. So to please them, they used to offer food. Now also you find many of the prasad, we say, It is distributed among the people, but first they are offering to the God. I think other voices are coming, please.
Prabhakar sir, please mute your voice. Prabhakar sir, please mute your voice.
Hello? Okay. So, they used to offer food. They used to offer flesh. It was not only food we can say what we daily eat, but they used to offer the flesh and also the wine. These are most of the time food, flesh and wine. It was offered by the devotees to the God in want of something. Maybe wealth, maybe some victory, maybe some other things, what they need in the daily life. So, this Veda includes these mantras of offering as well as their needs. Now, it is said here that no philosophy was mentioned in Veda. It was just a prayer, it was just a offering, and no philosophy was there. And these Vedas were, and what they say, but there were some Vedic sages, some of the sages who used to chant this Vedic mantras, like Rishis, we call it Rishis. They had some philosophy of their own. It is not mentioned in the Vedas as such in detail, but some of the Vedic sages have their own philosophy. So the name of the sages are given here. They are 8 in number, like Aghamarsana, Prajapati Parmesthin, Brahmanaspati, who is also known as Brahmanaspati, Anila, Dirghatamas, Narayana, Hiranyagarbha and Vishwakarma. So they are the sages who have some of the philosophies, but this philosophy, please understand here, these philosophers were having their own philosophy, their own thoughts, only on the point of thinking that how did the world originate? How an individual is created? Why have they their unity and existence? Who created, who ordained, and from what did the world spring up and to what again will it return? Now, these questions on which these sages used to give their views. Hello. Apart from these questions, there was nothing else they were thinking of. And we can find here that Buddha never thought of these questions. We have to be very clear here. How this world originated, who created the individual and all these things, Buddha did not care for, we can say that. Because
recording in progress.
Because Buddha was focused on the life from birth to death. In between, how a human being can live a good life and happy life. Only on these things he was focused on, and he never thought of. Maybe there may be some other things on which he spoke, but not for the general public. To the bhikkhus, he used to say something when the questions used to arise that time. So, I think from here, many of these things, I don't want to go in detail of all these things, like some for the creation of the world, Aghamarsana, was thinking that it was due to the heat which is present here, but he never talked how the heat was created. He said that the world was created out of heat, but he was not able to explain from where the heat was created. In the same way, Brahmanaspati, he was talking of like something is created out of nothing. So he was not able to say anything apart from that. Asat and Sat, what he says is non-existence and existence. He talks on it. So in this way, many of these, some talk of creation through water, some talk on creation of through air. So many, they have something basic which they say because of this the world existed or it is created, but no one were able to explain from which the world is created, how and when the things which was existence like water, heat, air, it was created. They were not able to explain that. Now one Narayana, he says, God created this universe, But here it is where he says Purush. Purush is given the name as God. And this Purush created the universe, he says. That is the cause. This God created the sun, the moon, the earth, the water, fire, air, sky, even the regions, the season, the creatures of the air, all animals, all classes of men, all human institutions had originated from God. He says that way. And some other, like Hiranyagarbha, he says that there is some power which is not explaining what is that power, from where that power has come. So he says it is from the power it exists. Everything is there. So these are the things. Vishwakarma is one. I don't want to explain everyone here, but it is said. Vishwakarma also talk of God, and he says that God is a power, and this power, this God was visible before the universe. When the universe was formed, he was already there. But where he was, don't know. He existed before all cosmic forces came into being. Means because he was already there, he created every universe, he created all cosmic forces, and all the things came into being. He is the sole God who created and ordained this universe. God is one and the only one. We find many people today saying that there is some power. If you don't believe in God, but there is some power. Or some say the God has power. And we believe in that because he had created, and see, only God is one and the only one. This is nowadays we find this sentence. Only one. God is only one. People has divided in different religion and all like that they say. And they are saying, he is saying here, Vishwakarma is saying here, he is the unborn one, means he is not born from as the human being is born. So he is the one who is mighty in mind and supreme in power. This shows that God is like a human being, but they are not explaining how the roop is, the form of the body is. But here it is said that he is mighty in mind, means the God has mind. And he has the supreme power which is using. He is the maker, he is the disposer. Means the God makes it and God disposes it. As Father, He generated us, and as Disposer, He knows the fate of all that is. So what is happening in the world, in the universe, it is just because of the God. What good is happening is because of the God, and what bad is happening, that is also because of this God. Now, what does Buddha say on this? Very important. Now these points come here. The point number 20. The Buddha did not regard all the Vedic sages as worthy of reverence. Even he did not reverence these sages. He regarded just 10 Vedic Rishis as the most ancient because they had some of the views and the real authors of mantra. Not just chanting the mantra, but they were the authors of the mantra. But in the mantras he saw nothing that was morally elevating. What he says means Buddha was searching of morality, which is the very important part in a human life. So he denied all these Vedas and all the sages, all the Rishis, because he says there was no morality in the mantras. Because as in the earlier, like in the starting, we just talked that mantras are just the prayers for want of something, for wanting of help or something else. So it did not include any morality. So according to Buddha, Vedas are worthless as a desert. As desert is not worth for us to live a peaceful life, in the same way, he says, Vedas are worthless. They have nothing to do with our life. Buddha therefore discarded the mantras as a source from which to learn or to borrow. So there was nothing in the Vedas, in the mantras, from where we can learn something or borrow something. So he just discarded it. He just denied it, we can say. So nothing is there to learn from. Therefore, I just overlooked over it and told about this to you. Nothing is there to borrow from here. He did not find anything in the philosophy of the Vedic Rishis. Even the Rishis, 8 Rishis about it is talked about here. Even these Rishis, their philosophy was not good at all for the human being to live. They were grouping to reach the truth, but they had not reached it. They wanted that to explain that it is the truth, but it was just the mind game, we can say. They were not able to prove anything. Their theories were mere speculations, not based on logic nor on facts. There was no logic, no facts on this. The contribution philosophy created no social values. Means from these points we can understand that Buddha was focusing on the humanity part where human should have social values, human should have morality, and it had no these values and morality was nowhere present in the Vedas or the mantras. So he totally denied it. He totally denied the philosophy. This is the most important part we have to understand, because when we are going to understand the teachings of Buddha, these are the basic things where Buddha denied these things. So accordingly we have to work on. Now, the philosopher named Kapila. Buddha accepted few things of this Kapila. I would tell you this second chapter. I would like to go through the last point of this chapter first. Point. If you have the book, you just go to the point number 31, where it is said what Buddha gives or tell about the philosophy of Kapila. It is said here, of all the philosophers, the Buddha was greatly impressed by the doctrine of Kapila. He was the only philosopher whose teachings appeared to the Buddha to be based on logic and facts. Other philosophers which we talked earlier, there was no logic, no fact. But Kapila, the philosopher, has some logic, some facts. So, he was a bit impressed about it, but he did not accept everything which Kapila taught. Only 3 things did the Buddha accept from Kapila. So, many things, we will go through it, little bit of it, but here it is said that only 3 things Buddha accepted from the Kapila's philosophy. He accepted that reality must rest on proof. So we have to think that it is real only when it is proved. Thinking must be based on rationalism. Therefore we say what the Babasaheb Ambedkar has given us Buddha, we are learning from Buddha and his Dhamma, which is written by Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, and we find that how rational the Buddha's teachings were. It is not traditional, it is not without proof, it is very scientific. In further later chapters, we'll get to know everything about it. But we have to understand that Buddha accepted Kapila's philosophy because there was some reality which was proved. He accepted this theory of Kapila, that there should be a proof. We should prove it, and it should be based on rationalism. This was the first part, what he accepted. He accepted that there was no logical or factual basis for the presumption that God exists or that he created the universe. So, about the God, Kapila also said, he did not say that God exists or he created the universe, so this was accepted by Buddha. That means, again we have to think, many of them people ask whether Buddha accept that there is a God or not. This point very well explains that Buddha did not accept the reality or the presence of God or the existence of God. And he is very clear here when he accepts the theory of Kapila. He accepted that there was dukkha in the world, suffering in the world. This was also one of the part of the Kapila's theory. Now, what Kapila says, it is very well mentioned here that the second point it mentions here, his philosophical approach was unique. Unique means it was very much different from the other philosophers. And as philosopher, he stood in the class by himself. And his philosophy was known as the Sankhya philosophy. Means, as we say, it depends on the mathematics. Sankhya philosophy, it depends on the mathematics. And everyone knows when we are learning mathematics in our schools or in future, in further classes, we can see that every next sentence is to prove the earlier sentence, or we can say that it is whatever equation we use in mathematics, it is proved at the last, and then only it is accepted. So was the theory of Kapila, where he says truth must be supported by proof. If there is no proof, it is not true. There is no truth without proof. Very clear. And because he said this, Buddha accepted this. Now he talk about the truth where he says there are two purposes of this truth. That is perception and the inference.
Panditji, please unmute yourself, Panditji.
Okay. Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yes, Panditji, please carry on.
Okay. So here about the perceptions and about the perception, what he says. Two type of purposes he says of this to prove the truth. First is the perception. And what perception says? It is that there should be a doubt for anything in which comes in front of you, whether it is true or not. There should be a doubt. There should be fear that it is true or not. If this comes in mind, you are able to find it out what it is really. So this doubt has to be there. Therefore we say Buddha's teaching, what Buddha says, questioning is one of the important part to get the full knowledge. One must question. And when the questions are arised when there is a doubt. And Buddha says there should be no doubt. What he says, there should be no doubt. Until you have no doubt, you should keep on questioning. You should keep on knowing it. And when you have no doubt means you have understood the truth. This is what it is. Now, about the inference, he says, two types. One is perception and the second is inference. What perception says? This is also accepted by Buddha. This is the Kapila's theory. It is said that from cause to effect, as from the presence of clouds to rain, what the inference is, there is something already from which something is coming out. There is something, some cause is there, therefore this effect is there. Therefore he gives the example of the cloud, because there is cloud, rain is there. If there is no cloud, no rain. Second, he says, from effect to cause, as from the swelling of the stream in the valley to rain in the hills. The second example he says that because the rain was there, the valley is full with water and the stream. The water is flowing from hills to the valley because there was rain. So how it is? The cause was the cloud, rain was the effect. But this rain became the cause again to have an effect, which was the stream, the water falling from the hills to the valley. Now, third, he says, by analogy, as when we infer from the fact that a man alters his place when he moves. Now, this third one, he says, you must have also examined this, experienced this when we walk or at the night, we see as we are walking, the stars are also moving with us. It says, this appearance should be there because they appear us in different places. they are moving with us. Whether they are really moving it or not, that's another matter. But we feel that the stars are moving with us. This is the third example he gave, and this was accepted by Buddha. Here he says he rejected the theory that the universe was created by a being, and he says being, that means it is God, because earlier it was said that God is a being. So he rejected that theory. So these are the things. I don't want to go to many things here, because what Buddha has accepted, we will talk on this. Now we come to the next chapter, that is the third one, where it talks of the Brahmanas. Next to the Vedas are the religious books known as the Brahmanas. Brahmin text, we can say. Both were held as sacred books. We have to explain, learn this chapter very well. This chapter is very important to know the views of Buddha. Okay? He was talking of Veda earlier, that he rejected Vedas because it has no morality, it has no social values, it was just for prayer. It was full of mantras. Now, with the Vedas, there are other texts which are known as Brahmana's text. And they are sacred books, because it is very important for the Brahmins. They used to follow this text. And this Brahmanas was a part of the Veda. This Brahmin text are the part of the Vedas. The two went together and were called by a common name, Shruti. So the Brahman text plus Veda are called Shruti. Now here what he says, there were four theses on which the Brahmanic philosophy rested. That is, according to the Shrutis, Vedas and the Brahmanic text, there are four theses which the Brahmanic philosophy was based on. The first thesis, it says that Vedas are not only sacred, but they are infallible and they are not to be questioned. Now we have to find here where Buddha says that there should be a question to prove the truth. But here, the first philosophy of Veda and Shruti, it says that Vedas are sacred, not only sacred, but they are out of question. You cannot question them. Out of questioning, we can say. Infallible means they don't have any mistake. No mistake, so no question should arise. So if you question means you are a fool. Even though there is no mistake here, you are asking a question. You have to understand that it is the truth. Don't go against it. This is the first thing. The second thesis of the Brahmanic philosophy was that salvation of the soul. They believe in soul and salvation of soul. That is, the soul has to be salvated through some rituals, we can say. It will come here. That is, escape from transmigration can be had only by the due performance of Vedic sacrifices and observances of ritual rites and ceremonies and the offering of gifts to Brahmin. Now here it is said, for the soul to be salvated, salvation of the soul, they say the Veda is giving some rituals, some performances, some ceremonies where you have to follow these rituals, you have to do these ceremonies, you have to offer the gifts to the Brahmins. Means what Ved is saying, that Brahman should be given the gift. Now, just hold on here. I would compare it with today's Bhikkhu and Bhikkhunis. I really want to do that, to compare it, because most of the people are donating or giving something to Bhikkhu and Bhikkhunis in want of something. Maybe it may be peace, no problem, but they want peace and they think that by offering Bhikkhu and Bhikkhunis they will get peace, without understand what is the real procedure to get peace in their life. You know? Huh? And that is called asking of merits, asking of Ashirvad. You know? They say, I am offering you something, please give us Ashirvad. Please give some merit to us. And that is because we are offering you. And even Bhikkhu and Bhikkhunis, now we have come through one of the texts where it is said that whatever you are offering to Bhikkhu and Bhikkhunis would be going directly to your ancestors who are dead. Means it's the same Brahmanical procedure which is mentioned in Vedas. It is being followed by today's Bhikkhu Bhikkhunis and also the people who do not understand the real teachings of Buddha. So we have to be very clear that offering will not give you something, but the teachings of Buddha will make a change in your life. Offering is needed, that is for the livelihood and not for your merits. Even if you give food to eat, it should be thought that because the Bhikkhu Bhikkhunis don't have their own houses to cook the food and have their own food, so to bring them out of their hunger, they need that to live a good life so that they can teach us. We have to give them food, not for merit, but for their hunger, to satisfy their hunger. This kind of things we have to think. We don't have to think that because we are giving the food, bhojan dana or chivar dana or whatever dana you are giving or whatever donations you are giving, you will get merit. You are giving them so that they can survive and get knowledge and give knowledge to you. These are the one. This is the things, and if it is against that, it is according to the Vedas, what the rituals and ceremonies they are doing it. So be careful before giving any donations. Be careful. You should not expect anything other than knowledge from the one to whom you are helping them. You should satisfy others' needs. That is most important. Now, the fifth point, I think you won't mind it. I'm comparing it with the Bhikkhu and Bhikkhunis. The Brahmins had not only a theory of an ideal religion as contained in the Vedas, but they also had a theory of an ideal society. So the earlier part, what 3 points we had understood here, it was about the Veda, that it is infallible, cannot be questioned. The other thing, it was the rituals which are to be followed, and the offerings to be given to the Brahmins. It is mostly the religious part mentioned in the Veda. Now, apart from there, that it is said that it does not only talk about the religious thing, but it talks about how the ideal society should be. Means Veda is explaining about the ideal society. Now, what the ideal society according to the Veda or Shruti is? It is said Chaturvarna. The ideal society is Chaturvarna. Chaturvarna means about the Chaturvarna, not Chatur, sorry. Chaturvarna. Chatur means 4. Varna means the stages of it is. I cannot. I'm not able to say about the Varna. We know Varna, you know. So it is said that these four Varnas, they are explained here. That first Varna is Brahmin people. The second Varna is includes Kshatriyas. The third Varna includes the Vaishyas, and the fourth Varna includes the Shudra. So people are divided into four Varnas. And these four Varnas are given the name as Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. And these Varnas are also not to be questionable, because it is the ideal society according to the Veda. So you should not question even this. Everyone following this Veda should follow Chaturvarna. And this Chaturvarna, which includes these four Varnas, they have certain rules to be followed without questioning. You should not question anything. The first rule is what we said, they are divided into four, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. The second socially equal. These four Varna cannot stand on equality. They must be bound together by the rule of graded inequality. There is a grade for them, it is mentioned, and that is based on inequality. Inequality, how it is that said that the the one thing is what they say, how inequality is graded. That the Brahmins are at the top, below the Brahmins are the Kshatriya, but the Kshatriya are above Vaishya, and Vaishya are below Kshatriya but above Shudra, and below above Shudra are all these three Varnas. Shudra is the lowest of all. Now, here, that time we can say, I don't know whether today's system, what we are knowing it, that Shudra, at that time, whether Shudra were included untouchables or not. But now, Shudras does not include untouchables. Means therefore it is said that these four Varnas are given a common name as Savarnas, means included in the Varnas. And those who are not included in this Varna are called Avarna, that is, they are out of their Varna, they are untouchables. So untouchables are not included in the Varnas. In Varna, Shudra is the lowest one. Now, these four classes were not to be equal to one another in the matter of rights and privileges. The rule of graded inequality governed the question of rights and privileges. Means, regarding the rights and the privilege they are getting it also depended upon their grading part. You know, that Brahmins will get more privilege and more rights than the Kshatriyas. Kshatriya will get less privilege and less right than the Brahmins, but more rights and more privilege than the Vaishyas. And the Vaishyas will get less rights and privilege from the Brahmin and Kshatriyas, but more than the Shudras. And the Shudras are not at all getting the rights and privileges. They are denied. All the rights and privileges are denied, and even they cannot question about it. The Brahmin had all the rights and privilege which he wished to claim. Means he can claim, he can ask for it. But a Kshatriya could not claim the right and the privilege which a Brahmin could. So Kshatriya also did not have the right to claim the privilege and right what the Brahmin had it. The same way others, they don't have the right to ask. They don't have a right to claim. The third rule of Chaturvarna related to the division of occupation. Now, according to the inequality of the gradation, according to the Varnas, they were given the occupations. Now, what the occupations of the Brahmins are? The occupation of the Brahmins are to teach, learn and teach, educate themselves. And also to perform religious rituals. Like as we said in earlier, that Vedas are giving them the privilege of accepting the offerings which are given by the people. These offerings are given, the sacrifices are there for the salvation of their soul. If you give something to the Brahmins, your soul will be mukti mil jayegi, like that. So this ritual things, only the Brahmins have the right to do it. Now the Kshatriya has the right to fight. It was the occupation of Kshatriya was to fight. The occupation of Vaishya was to do the trade, economics and all. An occupation of Shudra, we can't say occupation, it is written here occupation. It was to serve the supreme classes, superior classes, all the three. Why I am saying we can't say it occupation? Because they were not getting anything from that. They were not allowed to claim something from that. Just to serve without expecting anything from all the three Varnas. They were the superior classes to them, so they had to serve, only serve. This occupation assigned to different classes were exclusive. One class could not trespass on the occupation of the other. How it was? The Shudra cannot do any occupation of the Vaishya, Vaishya cannot do the occupation of the Kshatriya, and Kshatriya cannot do the occupation of the Brahmins. But now we find it very different. Because of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, we find each and every people from different caste or different Varna are doing occupation of their own interest. This is what it is all against the Vedas, because this is only because it is the constitution which is giving us this right and privileges, which is totally different from the Vedas. Varna Vyavastha. The fourth rule of Chaturvarna related to the right to education. The pattern of Chaturvarna gave the right to education to the first three classes. Now this right to education is given to three Varnas. But what they were getting the education was according to their occupation. It was not that the Kshatriya will get the education of how to perform the rituals, religious rituals. They were not allowed to say the mantras. So we will come again later. Later we'll get it how it is there. So Vaishyas were not allowed to get the education of the Brahmins and Kshatriyas. They have to be limited to the trade part of the occupation, which was the occupation. So he used to get the education how to do their own occupation. But Shudras were denied of right to education. Any education, Shudras were denied. This rule of Chaturvarna did not deny the right to education to the Shudras only. It denied the right to education to all women including those belonging to the class of Brahmins, Kshatriyas and Vaishya. See, now it comes here. The Veda is talking about the right and privileges of men only. Whether they are belonging to Brahmins, they are belonging to Kshatriya, Vaishya or Shudra, but it is talking about the rights and privileges of only men. Women from any Varna, like the Shudra, was not having the right to get the education. She did not have any privilege. She cannot claim for it. Means there was no space for women in the Vedas, in the Chaturvarna, whatever the religious or social, ideal social society. They did not include women, or they never thought that women is an important part of the ideal society or even the society. So this is very important part. We should know why women are not getting all the rights and privilege. Why did not get it till now? It was only because of this system given in the Vedas and Chaturvarna. We have to be very clear about it. Many people don't know. They are accepting the Hindu religion, the Vedic religion, the Brahmins and all, they are accepting it without knowing that they are not given any space in their ideal society. Now comes the fifth rule. According to it, man's life was divided into 4 stages. Again, only man life. We have to understand here. Only man life. It was divided into 4 stages. Now, what are the 4 stages? The first is called Brahmacharya, the second is called Grahasthashram, the third is called Vanaprastha Ashram, and the fourth is called the Sannyas Ashram. These are the 4 stages. According to the 5th rule of the Chaturvarna, where it is said that what does the first Brahmacharya Ashram includes? The Brahmacharya Ashram includes the study and education part. Whatever Varna they belong to, they have the right to have that study and education according to their Varna. And only men. The object of the second stage was to live a married life, that is the Grahasthashram. Means a man can live a married life, means a life of a Grahastha, we can say, a family life. The object of the third stage was to familiarize a man with the life of a hermit. Means we have to learn something before going to sannyas ashram, how we can live a sannyasi life if living within the family. That was this third stage. Means even though they were living in the family, they were living like a sage, they were living like a hermit, they were living like a sannyasi without interfering into the family matters. The object of the fourth stage was to enable a man to go in search of God and seek union with them. So the fourth stage was they can leave the house, they can leave the family, and they can go anywhere in search of God. At the last stage they are going in search of God and they think they are uniting with God. So this was the first. This is the fourth stage of a man of 3 varnas, not of Shudra and women. These are the 4 stages which a man has the privilege to maintain. The benefit of these stages were open only to the male members of the 3 superior. Okay. three superior classes. The first stage was not open to the Shudra and the women. Equally, the last stage was not open to the Shudra and women. Okay, all these stages were only for the three superior classes, the three Varnas. Such was the divine pattern of an ideal society called Chaturvarna. Means it was ideal society where there was graded inequality, there was given rights and privileges to some of them and not to others. Everything was graded unequal, and this was called the ideal society. The Brahmins had idealized the rule and had realized the ideal without leaving any cracks or loopholes. So, this rule was very idealistic for them, and they were leaving it without any loopholes, we can say, without any problem, without finding any drawback, or without thinking that it is good or not. They were following it, and they are still following it many places. Many of them are still following it without questioning it and thinking that it's the ideal way of life. The fourth thesis of Brahmic philosophy was the doctrine of karma. It was part of the thesis of transmigration of the soul. The karma of the Brahmin was an answer to the question. Where did the soul land on transmigration with his new body or new birth? This was the question asked to the Brahmins. And he used to answer, the Brahmin philosophy answers that it depends on the man's deed in his past life, not at this life. What we are getting now, it's not what we have done earlier in this present life, but it was depending on the last life. And therefore, people, whatever happened to us, we, most of the time, many people now too, they think that what is happening in their life is not because the society is that way, or the law is that way, or whatever happening around us is because of that, but it is only because of the past life, before getting birth. So it depends on that. So, and that is what karma they did in the past life. The Buddha, now here comes. The Buddha was strongly opposed to the first tenet of Brahmanism. Now here it comes about the Buddhism, about the Buddha's view. I think it is a very long chapter. Can we stop here, because I will have to explain it in very detail. The Buddha's view. I think we should stop here. We have completed about the Vedas and Shrutis. So,
Yes.
okay?
Sure, Banjiri, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And question is
Yeah, question and answer session, we can have it.
yes, Bante. So here we are discussing about
About the Vedas. I think you are muted. Please unmute yourself. Prabhu. Bharati Prabhu.
yes, Bante. So Bante, so we are discussed about the one power is there in the world. You are told about that, no? So God has only one power, where the human beings are taking their own choice, their own selection, dividing it into different gods and different powers. Is it so? How wide is so many gods as created? Is it correct? No.
Now here Buddha has directly said he does not believe in a God, and you are talking about so many gods.
That is nothing. Yes, Bante.
Yeah. See, he had denied the existence of God. Okay? And if we are following Buddha, are we accepting that there is no God? Or we are going against Buddha's views and accepting that there is a God? It's on you. Do you want to follow Buddha or do you want to accept it? Go against Buddha's views.
Bhante, my question is that question is about the Perumal question. Here, my question is, I feel some power in the world, Bhante. Like the thought is power, no?
See, these are the many things coming up in our mind. But what I said, Buddha talked only of the social values and morality. Okay? So he never talk about the existence, from where it came and from whether in later chapters you'll get to know. I'm telling it now, a few things like what Buddha says, that if you believe in power or the God, would there be any change in your life? Or if you don't believe in God or power, will there be any change in life? So never to think. So no question arise. We don't have to think of it. You know, we are wasting our time and energy about thinking of the things which cannot be proved. These questions are such things that everyone has something of their own, their views, and it cannot be proved. Okay? And Buddha says, what is not proved and what is not helping in your life, just leave it. Yeah.
Yes.
We have to think only about the teachings of Buddha, because it will give us peace. Thinking of whether there is God or there is power won't give us peace. Okay? Later. Okay? There are some answers about this. We'll come in later chapters. Okay?
Yeah. Okay, Bhante.
Yeah.
Bhante, other question, Bhante. What about the Vedas, Bhante? So I hear some research going on about Vedas. So Vedas really written by the Brahmin people, or it's really before Buddha, Bhante? It is proven.
What it is here now explained, it is said. Who has written, they have not mentioned. We know that it is written by Brahmins. Okay? And Brahmins say it is not written by a human being. It is written by some of the invisible thing, from the God. Okay? So, even what it includes, that we have to think of. Nowadays, people are confusing us by saying that it was at that time written by this and written by that. But that does not make any change in our life. If we want peace in our life, we need a happiness in our life, we should totally focus on the teachings of Buddha about the peace and happiness of ourselves and the society and the country, for the humanity. That is enough. I think so.
Yes, Bhante. Other one, Bhante. The Buddhism is the universal idea or universal teachings, but we are bordering the Buddhism. It's against of Brahmanical idea. It is right. It's good, Bhante.
Actually, Brahmanical idea exists in India.
Yes, Bhante.
Okay, so it is always said that when there is something pollution, we can say, which is polluting something, like I can give the example of a water. If some pollution is there, we have to think how this water should be purified. Okay. So what we say? First, we have to think how this impurity should be taken off.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we think of it. What is the cause of these impurities? We have to think over it. How can we this cause can be taken off, or how these impurities can be taken off? We have to think of it, and for that we are speaking now. Without speaking or without doing, we cannot do it.
All right.
Okay. Outside India, there was no Brahminical like these things. Directly Buddhism went into them. So, and that Buddhism also, what the teachings of Buddhas went there, they included according to their culture. The Buddhist the philosophy and Buddhist teachings are been mixed up, and they are following that. The Brahminical thing. Now the Brahminical things are going outside, so they are also thinking of that. But the Brahminical the Brahminical theory of philosophy did not affect the people of out of India. It is affecting us.
Okay.
Okay. So we have to take it off from our life. Unless thinking, without saying that it is impurity, we cannot throw it out.
Okay, Bante.
So we are taking of it. That's why when Babasaheb gave 22 oaths, the 6 oaths, it includes about the purity of mind without the Hindu, the God and all, where he says that we have to deny them. Then only the new things will enter into your mind. So first thing is that you have to take out the impurities. To purify it. Then only the purified thing would be there in your mind. Okay?
Yes.
So we are talking about it. It's not because of the hatred or because of whatever it is. It's not like that. We don't want that because it is affecting our life. It is affecting humanity. So we are talking about it. Otherwise, no need. Okay? Okay? Yeah.
Yes, Pante. Pante, or good news, Pante. The Ashoka statue clay model, it's going to complete. So now we are Dr. Rajavardhan, Bauta Perumal, and Advocate Madan Raj, and myself. We are going to visit Ashoka statue, Nagapattinam.
Okay.
Yes, we are on the way to Nagapattinam.
Congratulations.
Yes, Pante. Thank you, Pante.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pante.
Yeah. Anyone else want to ask the question?
It is good to see Dr. Rajavardhan, Sangatamaran sir, Niranjan and Prabhakar sir and all in the group.
Yeah.
Any questions or any discussions that needs to be extended, please feel free to ask.
Sangatamaran? Anna?
Jai Bhim. Bhikkuni, madam, Jai Bhim.
Jai Bhim.
Panditji, I have a query here. It will be more appropriate to say that Buddha denounced the Varna system instead of saying that Buddha denounced the caste system. Am I right, Panditji? Because things were flexible and not rigid as they are now. The caste system was not
Actually, in this chapter, we are not talking about the caste. Okay. In this chapter, what we have learned today, it was not about the caste, it was about the Varna. Okay. About the caste will come in later chapters. Okay?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, shall we see? Yeah. Virtula? Okay, Pante, shall we finish, Pante?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you for giving me time and listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pante. Thank you.